Adele Kamp, raised in Judaism, was blessed with vision. This is the story of how she came to paint her first mural in a Christian church in Ossining, New York, 30 miles north of New York City. Adele graciously invites us to relive her journey. This journey is about the joy of discovering how miracles guided her hand, touched her heart, and helped her to succeed in capturing the spirit of that city so sacred to Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Jerusalem, the city of gold.
Reverend Bob Finley pointed to this wall and he said, "Would you like to hang up a painting?" And I said, "I'd like to do a mural." And once it was out, I didn't want to take it back. And I got to thinking, how does something begin? The beginning. What is the beginning? And was it when a teacher, my kindergarten teacher, gave me a set of paints? Was that the beginning? Is that how this started? I thought about her a lot. I was, 5 years old, and she gave me paints, and I couldn't believe it. And then I somehow went into, I don't want to say like the closet, because I have two sisters who are both artists. And it was their territory. And I felt, well, I can't paint because that's what they do. And I thought about beginnings. Was it that? Was it that I watched my older sister paint a mural? I grew up in Brooklyn, and Hillel was a Jewish organization where she was painting a mural. And I remember being in awe. Maybe it was planted that way. Beginnings. It's such a fascinating thing. Somebody, anyway, here I am. There it was. Now, how to start. How to start a mural. I have never done anything like this. Originally, this wall had a partition. If you look in the back, there's an electrical conduit. All right? So I thought, well, okay, two paintings. I'll start, this will be one, and this will be another. And it never occurred to me to go beyond the doors. Okay, that somehow closed me in, and I felt safe. I asked a few people, how do you start a mural? And one person said, oh, that's easy, I've done 4. You take a picture, and then you get an overhead projector, and you project it on the wall. And then, that's how you do it. Or, you can put it in graph paper. And Wilma, who's a fellow artist, she can do that, and I've seen her do that. And I couldn't do it. I didn't even go to that point of making the boxes, making the graph. And this person said, well, if you color every box, you don't have to do the painting. Somebody else can do, this box will be pink, and this box will be green. You can get a whole bunch of people, and everybody will start, and that'll be fun. That's what I've done. And I thought, well, that's nice, but I don't think that's quite what I want to do. Then I called my cousin in North Carolina, who's done tiles, enormous tile work on walls. And he said, oh, just use charcoal. I said, what about if it's smearing all over the place? What if you want to erase it? He says, use charcoal. He didn't answer that. I said, I don't feel comfortable with that. And since I'm a teacher, I feel comfortable with chalk and an eraser. And that's how I started, with chalk and an eraser. Easy. And the irony is, how did I start? I started from right to left. And when that started to happen, I realized something is going on here. Because that's how Hebrew is written, from right to left. And I found myself making these arches and making the Dome of the Rock. And it became became very interesting to me. At home, I found this little disc that I bought in Israel. And it's of Jerusalem. So I thought, okay, I'll just try to copy this. And I found myself sweeping it along. And then I made an enormous arch here in turquoise. I thought the painting should be turquoise. Didn't sit right. I painted over the turquoise. I wasn't sure. Called Wilma. Wilma, what do you think? No good. Then we have a Spanish ministry here. This Hispanic, wonderful, wonderful minister came in, and he saw this dividing line, and he went crazy. He says, I rip it off. And I said, why? It's okay. I felt safe with it, you know, secure. I can work here, and then I can go over here. And he said, no, I rip it down. It destroys the whole thing. So one day I come in, and it's gone. And I panicked, because now I have to unify the whole thing, and I'm scared. This painting was inspired by my trip to Israel. In front of my friend's house in January, irises were growing. I couldn't believe it, and I couldn't get the painting, the whole concept out of my mind, because I love irises. It's my favorite flower. And I think this is pretty much when I started to do the bricks and the walls. I became obsessed with the arches and the walls. And someone said, you know, I've been in other churches, and they're sterile, these churches. But look what you did. You did. Something else amazing happened here. There was a Seder here. There have been 4 Seders here. 4 Passover Seders. Were you there? I don't remember. You were there. You were there. It's Christ's Last Supper. And it was in this room. And it was such an honor to have this mural here, even though it wasn't finished, but it was still here. And the room was set in a U shape. And they read from the book, it was called the Haggadah. And it was traced Israel's flight from Egypt, Moses' flight from Egypt. And the irony too, my father was born in Egypt and fled to Israel. And that became also something amazing to me. I also want to say that my Uncle Samuel fought with Ben Gurion. And I have to add that. I have forgotten that till this second. So, any questions? And I get down on my knees and I start sorting out the bark. And I started to paste the bark. And each week, the little Sunday school children who would come and watch this progression grow slowly wanted to meet the artist. So the teacher asked if I would come and talk to the children. So all these little kids sitting here, and the first thing I say, don't be afraid of anything big. You can tackle anything. And then I have to laugh to myself because as a teacher, you know, that's what you want to inspire. And here I have to listen to my own words that I too shouldn't be afraid of tackling anything this big. And I knew that I was not going up to the ceiling because I would stand on a chair and I would go up as high as my hand can go.
But you did go to the ceiling.
Well, I did go to the ceiling because some wonderful people here got a scaffold and sent me up to the top. Okay. So I asked the children, could they help me with this mural? Is there anything that they would like to add or suggest? And it was the children who suggested the birds. Well, I don't know how to paint birds. So I figured once I have the three-dimensional beginning, I'll just have to look around for little birds, right? They also suggested a camel, a cow, sheep. I have a couple little sheep here. I took some fleece and tried to cut it out, you know. But part of it is because I don't know how to paint birds. And in this book, I found a picture of David's well. and a woman at David's well. And I was fascinated by the face and the person. And so I started to do this, and then I realized I'm not a portrait artist. And I don't know how to put a face in here. So I left it without a face. And the more I came to love this, it became many things to me. And the Hispanic minister's wife came up to me one day. She barely speaks English. And she said, I love no face. I love no face. And it became important that there was no face. And I don't know whether, to me, at times it looks like Christ. At times it looks like something from the Grand Inquisitor, from the Brothers Karamazov. If you are familiar with one of the most incredible chapters, it's called the Grand Inquisitor, and it's about Christ returning during the Inquisition and how he comes in the night. And it became that to me too. To some people, it's the woman at the well. Father was born in Alexandria, Egypt, and his father was a rabbi. And they fled Egypt, and they went to Israel. And he was raised in an orphanage in Israel, and the orphanage is still there. And I visited the orphanage. And when I started to read about the Garden of Gethsemane, I could not believe that Mount of Olive, the cemetery, is right near Gethsemane. My grandfather is buried in Mount Olive. So that affected me too. And so I thought, well, he was someone I never met, and I wanted to, in a way, honor him too. So I wanted to put his name in the roots of the tree, but I didn't know his name. So I had to call my sister, whom I don't speak to. You know, we all have one of those. And I found out that his name was Baruch, and Baruch means blessed. Oh, I got very excited about that. So I asked someone to please help me out with the writing of that. Even though I took Hebrew in college, I didn't trust myself. And my father's name was Abraham, and his brother was Samuel. So that also became very interesting to me. And then, since it was already becoming a three-dimensional piece, I decided under the names to put a little rock, a little pebble, for each ancestor, for each of their, you know, my father, his brother, the family, one little rock, just like in Schindler's List, for those of you who maybe wondered what was going on at the end of that movie. And I'm going to cry. And then I wrote my own name. I knew how to write my name in Hebrew, I remember that part. And I wrote that in here. And it was coming to this church in an interesting way, where I learned more about Abraham and Samuel. These were just names. I mean, that was my father's name, and that was, but I didn't know that Abraham was the father of David, and Jesus was a descendant of David, who's a descendant of Abraham. And I didn't know.
Muhammad too.
And Muhammad too.
Yes.
So the Dome of the Rock. Okay. All right, now, I had heard